Hi, welcome. I'm Dr. Amy Fogelman. You're here because you're either brand new to expert work or you've done it before and you want to get more cases. And let's talk about why. Why do you want to do expert work? Well, you get more cases. That means more income without picking up extra clinical shifts. It means more flexibility. You work on your own terms from anywhere. And it means less burnout, fewer nights on call, more control over your schedule, and more impact and professional satisfaction. So that's the why. And now let's get into the how. You can listen to me on 2 times speed if you want to listen to me like a chipmunk. So let's get started. So these are some of the questions that I'm going to answer today. I'm not sure I can be an expert witness. Am I special enough? I want to do expert witness work, but how do I start? I've done a few cases, but attorneys never call me back. Why not? I need to market myself, but how do I do that without sounding salesy? What can I say when attorneys call me with cases? And other experts are landing steady cases. What am I missing? How much can I charge as an expert witness? And I'm going to share some quotes from graduates of my BFB, or Basics for Becoming a Medical Expert course. I'm so proud of them and their journey. And they were just like you when they started. So this was from an OBGYN hospitalist. I had no idea how to get started, but within weeks of finishing BFB, I got my first case and felt confident negotiating with attorneys. So let's start with a fun question. How much can I really make as an expert witness? And you get paid as a physician expert starting at $500 an hour up to $900 an hour and more. The super subspecialized surgical fields tend to be on the higher end, and you get paid for everything. So you get paid for doing document review. You get paid for your communication with the attorneys. It's writing emails. It's totally different than clinical work. And you get an upfront payment, generally 4 to 5 hours of your hourly rate. Non-physician experts have lower hourly rates, and we can talk about that individually. And the hourly rate does depend a bit on your experience and where you're located in the country. After implementing Amy's strategies, I landed multiple cases and billed over $40,000 within months of starting. That was from a PM&R physician. So who can be an expert witness? Well, you need to be seeing patients. That's what gives you your expertise. You don't need to be this gray-haired academic professor with hundreds of articles under your belt. Both academic and community and even rural physicians and medical professionals have their need in the expert world. It's your clinical expertise that makes attorneys want your opinion. You need to be a good teacher and a communicator, both in writing and orally. And you need to be willing to testify. So do not panic. Only about 5% of medical malpractice cases go to trial. The large majority of this work is done in your pajamas, reviewing cases, but you need to be willing to go the distance because that's why attorneys are paying you those high rates. You have to have no evidence of poor judgment. And by that, I mean no hospital or board discipline, a history of arrests, a pattern of malpractice cases that's beyond what's reasonable in your specialty, and no history of controversial writings. And you really need to enjoy the legal process. If you're just simply doing this for the money and you can't stand lawyers or the courtroom, this is not going to bode well for your career. And you need to be permitted by your employer. So a radiation oncologist said, I wasn't sure I had the right background for expert work. Now I've been retained on multiple cases and attorneys trust my expertise. So I'm a board certified internal medicine physician who practiced primary care for close to 2 decades in the Boston area. I stepped away from my clinical position at the end of 2024, and I did medical expert work for about 15 years. In 2018, I started High Rock Experts, where I match medical expert witnesses to attorneys across the country, and I've matched close to 700 expert witnesses and counting. Through this work, I realized that there are so many qualified medical professionals out there that don't have the foggiest idea how to do this expert work, and I see them making the same mistakes over and over again. And so I created this program to fill this void. I'm also a proud dance mom. So today I'm going to discuss my proprietary 3-step formula to double your cases in 4 weeks. So the first step is the courtroom step, where we teach you legal definitions and methods for performing medical expert reviews and testimonies so that you're doing A+ ethical work. And the second step is the business step, where we teach you to create and nurture your business to maintain organization in order to minimize your risk and maximize profits. And then the third step is advertising or marketing. And I am not talking about putting your face on a billboard, but we teach you how to market yourself while you keep your clinical credibility intact. So this is a cardiologist who reached out because he did not know where to start. And by his 3rd week, he landed his first case, billing $3,000 using our system. And by month 4, he billed over $20,000 in expert work while still turning down cases. And this is an email from one of my first clients who shared her results 18 months after using the program. And you can see that she was able to cut down her clinical practice by 1 day per week because of the revenue generated by her expert business. So the first step in our program is the courtroom step, and it really is about why understanding the legal framework is critical to your expert success. And unless you had a forensic fellowship, you would not have learned legal concepts in your medical training. And without knowing them, how do you ensure that you're doing expert work correctly and ethically? And to explain this further, what some medical professionals will do is that they figure, with all my medical training, I can wing it, I can figure it out. So you might get an email out of the blue from an attorney about a case. You'll decide, okay, this sounds interesting. You'll take it on. You'll check in with colleagues who may or may not know what they're talking about. And then you hope that you're doing a good job. But this old approach is problematic because you don't know what you don't know. And it's really a numbers game, meaning that you have to talk to a number of attorneys before you're retained for a case. And I want to introduce you to the concept of the conversion rate, which we will talk about in detail throughout this talk. But basically, the goal is to increase the conversion rate, and that's the number of cases retained over the number of intake calls. 71% of physician experts I polled get most of their cases from attorneys they've already worked with. So impressing hiring attorneys is just good business. And credibility is king in the expert world. So I'm going to share a common mistake that I've seen experts make and what you should do instead. So, for example, in these cases, attorneys will come back to me and they'll be really upset and they won't want to hire the expert again. So a mistake that I see is that you won't know legal rules like the Daubert standards. So how do you avoid being disqualified? Or you might not understand the legal definition of the standard of care, which is so important in medical malpractice abuse. And again, mistakes like this are going to harm your credibility with attorneys. So instead, a better way is that you should learn the legal basics before you start your next case so that you ensure that your opinion will stand up to scrutiny on cross-examination and you impress the attorney with your analysis and your reports and your testimony so that they're likely to rehire you and recommend you to attorneys. And this neurologist said, this step-by-step system helped me turn my first few cases into a steady expert business. And just remember, attorneys talk. They're on listservs asking for recommendations for experts, and you want to be at the top of mind when an attorney is asking for a recommendation. 80% of all attorneys rely on word of mouth when hiring an expert witness. So if you ruin your credibility with one case, you've essentially eliminated this opportunity. You want to impress everyone so that they won't badmouth you and they will sing your praises. You have to get this right from the beginning. Credibility is king. So let's move on to the next step of our framework, the business step, where we teach you to create and nurture your business to maintain organization in order to minimize risk and maximize process. And basically, the number one thing you need to do to maximize your profit is to streamline your processes to minimize wasted time and ensure full, timely payment. And to explain this further, without a thoughtful approach to your business, you're relying on colleagues who may or may not know what they're talking about, and you're wasting valuable time. Again, when an attorney calls you with a case, you may not know what to say, and you're wasting time checking in with colleagues about CVs and fee schedules and contracts and retainers. You might not even have thought about what type of case you might want to review. And this is problematic because there's no time to waste. An attorney wants an expert now. And if you spend days going back and forth getting your things in order, the attorney's already gone on to the next expert on the list. And if they do set up a call with you, they want someone who's confident and knows their stuff. So by winging your intake calls, you're not going to be at your peak performance every call, and that's going to decrease your conversion rate because you won't sound confident like you've done this professionally 100 times before and you know exactly what you're doing and their case is in the right hands. Also, you're wasting time on non-billable tasks, and time is money. So again, not being organized for that first case, or even worse, when you start getting busy, it means you're wasting time on non-billable tasks and you're not maximizing your income. BFB helped me set up my LLC, standardize my fees, and confidently handle attorney contracts. So instead, I recommend that everyone respond to every inquiry within 24 hours. You need to have a system in place, even if you're busy, like you're on call or on nights, to say, hey, I'm on call. Can we set up a call in a week? And then have a professional and planned first call. And you want to make sure that you streamline your case tracking and billing processes and learn how best to communicate with attorneys so that you're hired and you get compensated appropriately for your work. By learning these best practices, you're just going to be retained more often. It's simple. Attorneys want to hire someone who gets it, and this increases your conversion rate. The strategies in BFB helped me go from struggling to confident. I know exactly how to run my expert business now. So the last step in our framework is marketing, and you want to optimize your marketing assets to grow your client list while keeping your credibility and your integrity intact. And again, if you're just waiting for cases to come to you, if you're difficult to find, you're not going to be contacted for as many cases. There is a power to proactive marketing. After applying Amy's marketing strategies, I went from 0 cases to my first paid review within weeks. And you want to position yourself as the go-to expert with a clear niche. This helps you stand from other experts in your field, especially if you're in a generalized field. And it's a careful balance of making sure you're keeping your clinical integrity number one at all times. You don't want to look like a professional expert, but you want attorneys to be able to find you. I optimized my LinkedIn and CV using Amy's methods, and within weeks, I had attorneys reaching out. So this is what we've reviewed, the CBA framework for doubling your cases in 4 weeks. And you could try figuring this out on your own like I did using the tips I gave you today, but that could take years. Or you can follow a proven system that works. And this is exactly why I created BFB. I'm going to talk about my flagship program and how we can work together. And now there's an even better version. It's the 2.0 version. And I'm going to use these two terms, BFB and BFB 2.0, interchangeably because we've changed the program. So there's only one now, and it's even better. So the core content is split into 15 video modules. They're about 10 minutes each. They're easy to consume. They're concise. They're packed with info. And each video comes with about 30 minutes to an hour of homework that go with it. So you do it on your own time. It generally takes about 2 weeks. Don't be overwhelmed. This is completely and totally doable. And then we give you every single template, ready to use email and telephone scripts, spreadsheets for organization and marketing optimization. We even give you like a report template, for example, CV template, everything. And the beauty of this course is that for the entire first year after you enroll, you get access to a question and answer small group session on the first Friday of the month. So this is at 11 a.m. Eastern, the first Friday. You come in, there's these small sessions, you get personalized attention. We record them, so if you can't attend, you can still watch them. And every step of the way, whenever you have questions, I'll be there to guide and support you. It does not need to wait until that Friday. Also, when you complete this training program and you get your BFB certification, I'll introduce you to a New York consulting firm that has over 200 law firm clients. You will be on their list of preferred experts. And you will have access to the High Rock BFB member circle, which is a supportive members only community where expert witnesses connect, grow, and land more cases together. Within 10 days of implementing her recommendations, I secured 12 new cases on top of my usual queue of 4 to 6 cases. The only change I made, I followed Amy's advice. So this new version includes these special editions. When you graduate, you can get featured in our public listing where attorneys first search for medical experts. This exclusive directory is only available to experts who've completed our course. And so this is free for the first year. And after that, you pay $980 to stay in the directory. So it's a $980 value. You also have access to the Industry Insider Insights course, which is an additional 6 hours of content from top attorneys and experts covering essential topics like business setup, contracts, marketing, and financial strategy. And that $2,200 course value is included in the course. So now I'm just going to answer some common questions. How much time does it take for you to review an average case? And so it really depends on the number of records. So for me, it takes me about an hour to review 100 pages of records. So if I got 400 pages of records, that would take me about 4 hours, plus about an hour to discuss my findings with the attorney. And so for the brand new experts, a case ends when it's dropped, it's settled, or it goes to trial. And so for the expert, it might end after that initial review, or it might require a written report, which would take additional time to write. And then as time progresses, you might be asked to review additional records. And then months or years later, you may be asked to testify at deposition or trial. And all along the way, any work that you do on it, you're billing for your time. And so what happens after the course? Well, you still have access to those monthly live group calls where you get to ask any questions that you want. And for us to troubleshoot together, I want you to be successful. You also have the High Rock BFB member circle, which is a support group. And every step of the way, whenever you have questions, I'll be there to support you. So if you're waiting for the perfect time to start, don't just dive in and get started now. Thank you for your time.